That's not too bad. That seems to work when you go to your edit searches, and obviously this needs to be cleaned up. This is very similar to the advanced search. Whether this is populating correctly with whatever the search content was, I don't know. I highly doubt it is, but we'll have to go through that. Clean it up, probably make it look very similar to the advanced search, but make it work and look better. So that's another thing that needs to be cleaned up and functioning better. So those things are those are the big things, I think. Let me look at my list here. We talked about the polls, so we need to make sure the polls, you were able to have different polls, like boots and them and that sort of thing. All right. We're going to automatically do the default search. You're going to do I don't know if I mentioned it, but the snapshot, applicant snapshot.
Yes.
Definitely need applicant snapshot in the cover. Hiring tools. That's another thing. Hiring tools. Right now it works, but it's not really. But we'll worry about what it does later because that's more background check stuff. But that only needs to show. This is going to go back into the employer registration thing. If the employer is signed up for background checks, signed up to do background checks, means they're paid for it, then the hiring tools button can show up. If they have not signed up for background checks, then it doesn't need to show up. It needs to be hidden. Okay. So we need to have a place in the employer registration that's going to mark them down for background checks. But we need to figure out more about how Shannon and them are going to be pricing for background checks and how they're going to be doing the subscriptions for that. So we'll know how to structure the database to mark down whether a person.
What do you use for a subscription now?
Well, nothing. I mean, Shannon is basically said there's not going to be any subscriptions.
Okay.
He said there's different pricing for staffing companies and different pricing for employers, and people are going to be able to sign up for monthly, quarterly, or annual billing. Different prices for that, but he said there's not going to be any kind of subscription, different kind of subscription levels.
Okay.
So that kind of scares me on the database off of that, because as soon as we do that, they're going to start wanting subscription levels.
Yeah.
So we need to probably think about potential for flexibility in there.
Yeah.
But for now, they don't want any kind of subscription levels. Background check, we need to figure out how he's going to do background check. If he's going to have, you get so many background checks for this amount and so many for this amount, or if he's just going to have, however he does it, we need to figure that out so we'll know how to do the database.
And is there an admin section for all of this, like to view everything that's going on? So how many employers for each, or?
That's what's going to, and that hasn't been built yet. That's sort of been built. But and once we get into the code, you can kind of see it. But that is where the admin, you're talking about where a Getmebacktowork administrator can log in and just see a bunch of stuff. Right?
Like so if Shannon wants to log in and kind of view metrics or something like that.
Run reports,
run reports.
That's going to be the administrator, and that's what we sort of started. And the first thing we built into it was the employer registration, where an administrator can go in there and register new employers. But that is where all that stuff is going to ultimately be.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not built yet, but it will be. So. I was going through my list here. Let's see. Okay, so another thing is the private labeling. Based on the login info. So, for instance, if somebody from the Boots campaign logs in, we need to know that they came from the Boots campaign, one, so that we know which applicants to show, but two, so that we can kind of white label it for them. With different icons, and we can maybe use a completely different CSS style sheet if they want. So anyway, so that's one thing we're going to have to do based on login information. We're going to need to be able to change the appearance of the screen.
Okay. Do we want them to set up their own, so like basically give them the option to enter colors in, or will we set that up for them once they? I'm assuming these are going to be big accounts, so we'll set that up for them.
Probably set it up for them unless they have something they design. I don't think we need to create a user interface for them to set that up or anything.
Okay.
These are only going to be big partners that are going to have that ability, I think.
Okay.
We'll probably just either you or Andrew or somebody just create a new style sheet or let them tell us how they want it to look or something. So, all right. Let me do advanced search. Okay, and he does not want this black bar up here.
Okay.
Therefore, we probably didn't want the black bar down here. Basically, the reason is because we don't want people leaving our. I mean, if they're on the brochure side, that's one thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But we don't want them leaving this thing, especially applicants that are applying. So we definitely don't want it in there.
Yeah.
There's no point in this. Basically, up here, it says. I don't know why it even has that there. You know, but, I mean, that's the username. I mean, we don't care about that. Basically, it needs to say, welcome Shannon Scott, and then comma, or underneath it, tell the company that they're with.
Yeah.
You know, Shannon Scott tax breaker, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get a logout button, you know, right around it or something. But none of this other stuff needs to be there. All this stuff is just going to run them off the website.
Yeah.
Without actually logging out.
Yeah, off of their current task. So.
Yeah, so it's not a good idea to have that. So we want them to have to log out to leave or to close the site. So, All right. Let's see. So that needs to be gone. Let's go in here, admin section. All right. So, are you with me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So far, so good.
So this right here is the admin section for the employer. We're going to have different levels of employers. I think that's already in the database. You're going to have basically administrators, and you're going to have standard users. Okay. Administrators can have full access. They'll have access to everything. They'll be able to create new users. They'll be able to see their company information. They'll be able to see billing. Well, I'll take that back. We're going to pull the billing out. Okay. But they'll be able to create new users and look at their company information, change any information that we allow them to change. Mm-hmm. Standard users won't, unless they're specifically granted that permission. And a lot of that stuff, we'll get into some of that stuff also. It's in the specs and how that's going to work. But basically, for administrators, for the employer, the administrator, they'll be able to go in here and they'll be able to see their employer information. Obviously, this is wrong. It's supposed to populate supposed to show them their company information, company name, address, all that stuff. You know, how many employers they have, any kind of subscription package they have. It's just to show them all that. And very little of it is to be editable because a lot of that information we don't want them editing without contacting us and telling us about it.
Yeah.
You know, so most of it does not need to be editable at all. Mm-hmm. Company contact information, that's fine. We can leave that editable. Obviously, but it needs to be populated first, and it's not. But anyway, so we've got company information, users. This is where they go, and this is so messed up, but this is where they go and they create new users, specify the type of user it is. Mm-hmm. If it's an administrator, it goes ahead and checks all that stuff, and it's grayed out. If it's a standard user, then they can go through and choose which, assessments don't even exist anymore, so that'll be gone. But assign background checks, that's one of them. Manage users, manage billing, whatever.
And when they create a user, does it send them an email to?
It doesn't right now, but it needs to. It needs to do the exact same thing that happens when the Getmebacktowork administrator creates the first user. Same exact thing. Shoot them an email so they can click a link, go in there and accept terms and conditions and create their own password. That's what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's basically what's going on here. It's going to be very, very basic stuff. Mm-hmm.